Let me actually plug in the computer because that's going to take a lot of power. All right. So, welcome back, everybody. I'm just curious if anyone was able to get to the practice to go. I spoke with a clinician when the meeting first started, and I hear some of you guys are in finals mode. I know life is busy, so there's no pressure to do any of the practice to go, but it does help build on the next presentation to have a bit of a understanding, a deeper understanding of the skills we review and the concepts we review. Did anybody have any questions about anything from last class, or any of the mindfulness techniques we used, or any mindfulness techniques that were learned in between classes? All right, perfect then. So, welcome back. We're going to get started with our mindfulness right off the bat, instead of at the end of class, so that we have a bit of time to reflect on our mindfulness. And today we're going to be doing something related to this guy who is very therapeutic. His name is Bob Ross. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen his programming. And we're going to be using a few of our mindfulness techniques today to really practice them. So let's take a few moments to ground ourselves and breathe. And last licks for any questions from last session. All right. So let's ground ourselves. Let's get in a nice, comfortable position. No standing if you can. If you have to, that's fine. But get comfortable in your seat. Really feel the solid seat beneath you, on the back of your thighs. And plant your feet straight down on the ground, and just start by taking a nice deep breath in through your nose, really filling up the belly, filling up the stomach, and breathing out slowly through our mouths as if through a straw. Great job. You can close your eyes if you want, but we'll need them a little bit later. If you'd like to do that for now, just to relax. Breathe in through your nose. Hold the breath at the top. Let some of that air soak in. And let's breathe out nice and slow through our mouths. Very, very good. Now let's do that one more time. Breathing in slow. Holding the breath at the top. Letting go of everything before this meeting and letting go of everything after. We'll get to that later. Breathe out slow, slow, slow through the mouth. Wow, I know that just brought me down a bit. I wonder what it did for you guys. I'm sure probably something very similar. So, today, we're going to be practicing focus and non-judgmentalness. The source of this exercise can be found in your PDF, the observe, describe, participate technique, and the what skills, with also the how skills, which are on the pages below. The what skills of observe, describe, and participate are extremely, extremely practical mindfulness skills that can help anybody start to practice the mindful process by really throwing our attention into observing, then describing as objectively as possible what we're being asked to observe, and to participate fully in the activity that's in front of us. This means, like I said before, letting go of distractions, letting go of whatever happened at 10:30, and letting go of expectations of what's to come at 12, and our sessions that we have later. Just throwing ourselves into the activity. The how skills, on the other hand, which perfectly pair with the what skills, are about being non-judgmental with ourselves and with the experience in front of us. One, mindful, really, really trying to participate and trying to hone our focus on what we're doing and being effective. And that could mean, doing whatever it takes to get grounded and get attached to this exercise we're going to do. All these skills apply to helping our clients be more mindful in their lives. So today, we're going to observe, describe, and participate looking at this beautiful Bob Ross painting. And so the goal of this exercise is just to observe what you're seeing, describe anything you see about this painting, and maybe anything that the painting brings up for you, and to participate, just to stay grounded to the activity, trying not to lose ourselves to our thoughts, our feelings, if we're thinking about something else. Just trying to really hone our attention on the painting. So we're going to take about 1.5 minutes to observe and describe what's coming up for us. Some key questions to consider are, what are the subjects of the painting? What are the colors you see? Try to describe the colors as specifically as you can. And if this painting brings up any particular feeling, observing and describing what's happening for you in the moment. So I'm going to set our timer, and we're going to get started. Remember, if your thoughts are taking you away from your experience right now, that's okay. You haven't failed. Just bring your attention back. We're going to gently end the exercise now by just taking a nice deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth, returning our awareness back to the general meeting. Awesome job, guys. Now, I'd like to ask you a few questions, and I'll take a few of your responses before we press on. What did you observe and describe? What popped out from you from the painting? How is it participating or throwing yourself into the activity and letting go of thoughts and distraction for the time being? Did you notice any judgments pop up? And no judgment if you did, it's human. Sometimes these mindfulnesses don't always resonate, or sometimes it could bring out a judgment about ourselves. And did you need to make any adjustments to be effective? Get yourself more grounded with some breathing, try to lean back into your seat or something. Validate yourself for if mindfulness is difficult, or if you just had a hard session right before this and it was grabbing you. Did you have to take a few more deep breaths, close a tab on your computer, or even bend the rules a bit to stay engaged? I'd like to hear from you guys. Lena, you can unmute yourself.
So it was a little difficult at first. I found myself picking something in the painting and my mind would travel, and you perfectly timing. Your timing was perfect when you said, it's okay if you wandered, it's human, come back. It kind of cut into that judgment that started building within, and I was able to come back, and I was really focusing on um, just the artistry and like this beautiful pink hue in the center of the sky. It kind of made me think like, oh, it was like daybreak or a dawn, or and then seeing it reflected in the water, and uh, seeing like the shadows on the mountains, just like really appreciating the artistry. I was once you pulled me back, I was able to really settle into the painting. Um,
Great. And not go to Judgmentville, USA.
yeah, yes. You pulled me. You disturbed the judgment train of thought. So I appreciate it.
100%. Thank you for sharing that experience. Sometimes it just takes one pivot to throw ourselves back in. And also, because a lot of our clients are going to be learning mindfulness for the first time. Remember, we live in a Western society. In the tri-state area, we're moving fast. We're running. We got a lot on our minds. These concepts are new, so really being gentle and helping clients with the baby steps of it, not being afraid to come on in and guide a bit. That's going to be very helpful because these are very trippy ideas for most people. So, it reminds me, I have a client who's a business owner, very successful business owner, and has had issues with cocaine use and whatnot in my practice. And not in my practice, but he's had issues with cocaine use. And for him to stay grounded, it's very hard because he's very on the move. He's very always pivoting. In fact, it's what's made him very successful, to jumping to different things, to closing deals and everything like this. So, I'm working very slowly with him to become more mindful. And it's absorbing, drop by drop. Let's take one more. Does anybody else have a insight that they want to share? Clarissa, please.
Hello. So I noticed at first I felt peaceful because I noticed the colors in the sky were pastel and I was noticing that they were relaxing looking. Then my mind started to wander because I was like, oh, that looks like it's Alaska, or it could be Maine. I would like to go to Alaska or Maine. And then I kept thinking of, my mind was going like further. Maybe I could go there so like this time or that time. And then my mind is like going, and then I had to catch myself like, no, focus on the details of the painting, focus on the way it looks, like not necessarily any future trip or something. So I did catch my mind wandering a little bit, but I found the scene to be very peaceful. I noticed the colors in it and just the beautiful scenery that it was at first.
Great. And Clarissa, thank you for sharing that. Um, you know, Maybe a kind validation of saying, wow, I really have the travel bug, or I really enjoy vacation, and that's what's coming up for me. Maybe by validating that want, right? Maybe that could have helped too, to kind of sort it and kind of, you know, attend to that and then to return back. Not that you did a bad job with how you did it, but perhaps an emotional need like, hey, I need to relax, I need a vacation. Maybe that came up for you.
Yeah, and I think it's also like it was causing me to wrestle with or face like maybe some reining in being distracted as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. It could say something about that, wanting changes of scenery. But I think also helping me to confront, like, okay, be present, like you're getting distracted.
Right,
Your mind is now thinking like for the of the future, not the present.
right.
So it was reminding me of that, like to catch myself.
And that push and pull was not being unmindful, but it was about recatching yourself. As I was saying before in our first session, with the principle of applied mindfulness, we really want to help clients and ourselves really train in that mindful catch. We're not always going to. It's not always going to be easy to be in the mindful state. Our mind drags us places. It's human, right? But the fact that you kept on catching yourself was tremendously, tremendously helpful. So Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's so insightful.
Thank you.
All right. And again, guys, if you have any questions, I do leave my number at the end of each slideshow. So if you want to ask me a question about mindfulness, take 3 minutes of your time, 5 minutes. I'm receptive to calls during the training cycle, and even a few weeks after, you can reach out. Okay. Now back to the grind, study time. So we went over the core DBT therapist principles that I'm trying to pass down to you guys. We got through dialectics, validation, empathy, sympathy at times, and learning the difference between valid and effective, which is so important. We're going to switch over now to these 3 principles, and we're going to really be focusing on the foundations of emotion regulation today. It's an ambitious goal. We're going to move a bit swiftly, but I'm going to try to pass down to you guys insights and some practical uses for the different emotion regulation skills. So we're going to help and learn we're going to help our clients find balance, the first sentence, with their emotions and enter wise mind, which we spoke a little bit about last time. It's a key principle and skill to teach our clients. We're going to help the client control dysregulation of their emotions. We're going to try to take a stab at that today. And we're going to teach core DBT skills to help people our clients master themselves, their emotions, and control their behavior, which will eventually help them control their destiny, build that life worth living, the life that they feel that they would be comfortable with, where they're in emotional control and they're living their best life, as we say today. So, this is on controlling emotion dysregulation and impulsivity. I want you guys to understand it's almost always paired. It's never not paired. And this comes from the biosocial theory, which is in our book. I'm not sure if it's in the general handouts or the mindfulness off the top of my head, but it's a really important read for you guys to check out. So how do we help people control dysregulation and impulsivity? We do this by teaching our clients about wise mind and helping them find the day-to-day usage of wise mind with new awareness and skills. Our first objective today is going to be to learn wise mind deeply so we can pass it on to our clients. And our second objective will be to learn 2 more core DBT skills to help clients cope better from the emotion regulation book. And I want you guys to remember this is a key concept. It's very, very important for us to not forget this. And we have to kind of tell this to our clients and to ourselves to set expectations for treatment so that we're not getting frustrated, and also it helps clients control their frustration with the pace of change. We have to remember behavioral change always starts first. People are going to start using the skills. We're going to ask them to use the skills. We're going to explain the skills. We're going to help them find applications and for them to use the skills. The thing is, the behavior change, the usage of the skills comes first, and then it's followed by a change in felt experience and well-being. So sometimes people do have an immediate response. Wow, that really helped me. Wise mind really helped me today. But for a lot of clients, they're going to question, wow, I'm doing all these things different, but I'm not feeling so different overall. And they're going to come to you with that question. And we have to remind them that we have to work the skills. There has to be enough behavior change in order for us to start to feel things differently. All right. So this is wise mind. This is from page 50 of our text. This should be a chart, a diagram that really you should memorize, internalize, really give it a lot of thought, because this is the way DBT tries to help people understand how to validate and also how to be effective, how to get the emotions under control and soothe those emotions which are causing so much pain, while also keeping them on the change process that will lead to better results in their life and more self-control, controlling those impulsive behaviors from those hot emotions that are just making them, I feel, I act. We want to break that chain. So wise mind, states of mind. So it's wise mind is the synthesis of both the idea of what's called reasonable mind and emotion mind. Can I get somebody to read the reasonable mind portion? Can somebody please come on out, unmute? You don't have to even, you can raise your hand first, but if you could just join us with this. Anybody? All right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. How would I pronounce your name? I want to get it right. Hiteshka. Forgive me if I the consonant at the end is challenging me a little bit. I'm so sorry. But please, can you please read reasonable mind?
Sure. So the reasonable mind is cool, rational, and task focused. And when in reasonable mind, you are ruled by facts, reason, logic, and pragmatics. Values and feelings are not important.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And reasonable mind, right, is where we plan things. It's where we create our long-term plans. It's where we think about how we're going to strategize to get what we need out of life. This is it's almost like a computerized version of ourselves. What tasks do we need to do to achieve our goals? This is often the underpowered part of the mind that clients are really, really struggling with in the beginning of treatment. Can I get somebody for emotion mind? Anybody? It won't bite.
I could go ahead. This is Angel.
Thank you, Angel. Please.
So emotion mind is hot, mood dependent, emotion focused. When in emotion mind, you are ruled by your moods, feelings, and urges to do or say things. Facts, reason, and logic are not important.
Right. Thank you, Angel. So this part of our mind, and this is really where the hot emotions live. This is where the impulsive behavior comes from. Impulsive behavior, remember, is counter to reasonable mind's programming. Behaviors that conflict with our goals. Emotion mind is where these problems live, and oftentimes through a variety of experiences, whether somebody is built with a more strong emotion mind, they came from invalidating circumstances, they went through a lot of pain in their life, and they didn't learn how to cope well, and they have a lot of hurt inside of them. This is where those problems live and where that hurt lives. And this is where the acting out and the challenges come from that clients want to, of course, resolve in treatment. So we bring it on together. I'm going to take wise mind. So we're trying to find the dialectic, the synthesis between these two states of mind. And wise mind is the wisdom within each person. Seeing the value of both reason and emotion, being able to validate and stay effective. And bringing left brain and right brain together, or the middle path. We want to help our clients learn to really understand that their feelings are valid and they can't always be acted upon in their raw form, or sometimes never. And we're going to talk about opposite action and check the facts today, which is going to help us apply this. Lena, you have a question, please.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is this chart something you say you want us to have it and retain it and memorize it? Is this something that we can share with the client as well?
100%. The client should get a copy of that PDF as soon as they start treatment. If you're hitting it with the DBT lens, they should have everything. But the thing is, you really, to look at the chart, right? It's very helpful. It's a great visual, but you're going to need to apply it in sessions and say, oh, you remember what I said about emotion mind? I think that's what's coming up here. How do we get to wise mind? You might want to come back to the chart every so often, but the thing is, you're gonna You're gonna need to really digest this so that you can teach the concepts without having to always pull out the chart. There is something called workbook fatigue. Hey, let's get back to the paper. It's like, I wanted to talk. Come on, so you need to be able to work it in. I have somebody in my consultation group who's a little too reliant on the paper, and she's lost one client already because she pulled out the workbook at times, and it made the client feel like it's too robotic. So again, we want We want to not get too CBT, like with a notebook in front of us. So you said this. Now, what about that? There's a room for that. There's room for that, but we don't want to overwhelm our clients. Okay. So I wanted to give you guys concrete goals, objectives, and interventions related to Wise Mind. You're going to have these slides. Just try to absorb as much as you can. Ask a question if you need it. But just so that we understand how this kind of practically works out and how you would write it up in a treatment plan. So our general goal with building Wise Mind is to reduce and eliminate emotion dysregulation issues through balancing emotions through Wise Mind. And remember, I'm not sure if you guys have the treatment plan in this style, but a goal is our big overall goal. We achieve this, we achieve a huge chunk of treatment. Our objectives are the mini goals that help us get to that overall goal. Objective 1, we want to teach and help the client internalize the concept of Wise Mind. They have to know what it is. They have to know what it looks like in their life. Objective 2, have client ask, what would my Wise Mind tell me to do in challenging scenarios? So they don't only have to understand what Wise Mind is, they have to ask, what would my Wise Mind do? They have to be able to really to tap into the strategy during challenging moments. And we can do that by practicing early on when they're not emotionally activated, so that when they are, the practice skill of asking about what Wise Mind is comes to mind. And like I said, this can be done in session to practice the technique together. So the interventions, the small things. Review the DBT literature together. This doesn't need to be done too much, as I was saying before, book fatigue. You pull it up as needed, and different clients have different abilities to digest the book. Next, we want to explore with the client what their emotion mind is telling them through process work. This is where it's going to get dynamic. This is where we're going to sit down and we're going to figure out what emotion mind has been doing, to make them act out and not move towards their goals and feel miserable and feel dysregulated. It's talk therapy. With a therapist that they like and they're connected to, and they can really, as they say today, they can chop it up. They can talk. We want to explore the challenges from purely listening to emotion mind. We want them to really get in tune with what their emotions are saying. Then we want to start asking what is effective, which engages the reasonable mind. We want to try to bring these two things together. Remember, that's a key dialectic. Understand your feelings and understand what needs to be done so that you continue to move forward in your life, and maybe also you don't do any more damage based off of what your emotions are telling you to do. What does the client think and feel they need to do to feel better? Have better outcomes in their life, move towards goals and happiness. Happiness is something that sometimes therapists are afraid to talk about because, sometimes clients haven't tasted happiness for a while, but it's an important concept because we want clients to have happiness in their life. If the client needs help, we're going to brainstorm with them, provide insights to what they can think and what they can think about, ask questions about how they're feeling, about what's effective, everything like that. Reflect and summarize back on previous sessions, intake, and other times where the emotions spoke about their desires for change clearly and remind them about it. Emotional amnesia. When somebody's very emotional, they're going to forget what their goals were. We got to bring them back to it. We can't just allow them to flounder because they're so dysregulated. We got to bring them back in a compassionate way. And help client understand that Wise Mind is a balance between inner validation and doing what is effective to move ahead. Again, you guys have this slide. If you have any questions, please call or text me. Remember, integrating Wise Mind is psychoeducational, it's guided, and it's extremely dynamic and exploratory. A key dialectic for both therapist and client to internalize. It takes sometimes a while for people to really get Wise Mind. You have to talk about the crap of their life and how they're struggling. You have to bring Wise Mind in skillfully where you think it's appropriate. Sometimes you might have to suspend that talk and really try to, just say, hey, I think we really need to brush up on Wise Mind. You have to read the room. But remember, it takes time for clients to digest this. Sometimes it takes months. Does anybody have any questions? 5-second rule. Anybody? Questions? All right, moving on. Okay, so Now we're getting to the core DBT skills. And these are the assumptions that the core DBT skills are built on. This is in your workbook in group assumptions, and they apply to both individual practice as well. All clients are doing their best. We all are. Basically, everybody is doing their best at any given time. They're doing the best with what they have to work with. However, when our best is not providing the outcomes we want in life or not good enough in regular speak, we need to try harder and learn better ways to cope and relate to it with ourselves, others, in the world. Basically, you're coming to therapy, your best probably isn't good enough, and we have to we have to upgrade these things. Did anyone have a question, or did the mic just go off by accident? Okay. A lot of the time, people have not learned the skills they need to be successful. Not everybody was modeled how to do well, or people could be very traumatized with a big T or a little t. Invalidation is a little traumatization, not a PTSD level, but it's a traumatization that they need special skills to deal with how the world has treated them, or if they have super big emotions, they need super big coping skills. Their support system may not have modeled proper ways. In fact, they may have been traumatized or invalidated the client chronically, which is what I was saying before, and this is from our biosocial theory. Very important handout. I can't say enough. Some people need the DBT skills for their individual susceptibility to emotion dysregulation, again, from the biosocial theory. And for many clients, it's all these factors merging into one. Remember, borderline personality disorder was once they're trying, the personality disorders experts are trying to rename it emotion dysregulation disorder, to destigmatize it and maybe to take it out of the personality cluster. Maybe it might stay there. But, a lot of times it's somebody doesn't have to have full borderline in order to have some of the traits, or, have need all these things because they have big emotions and they have been invalidated. A friend of mine in grad school said borderline can be on a spectrum. We need to think about it from that way. Borderline could be also seen as the human condition magnified by 100. Some people, we're all insecure at times. We're all dysregulated at times. We all have been invalidated at times. All these skills can really be applied to really most clients. All right. So remember, we gotta remember many times DBT skills are being taught for the first time on how to cope effectively. People have never gotten this help before. Sometimes the old coping skills are no longer effective, and new skills must be learned for new eras and challenges of a client's life. An example is coming from an invalidating home and shutting down to protect ourselves. So the client shuts down to not hear it anymore. Doesn't work when we need to make new healthy relationships. So they need to learn how to unshut down. They need to learn how to connect with their feelings again to be able to get the connections that they need in this example. So, any questions before we jump into the skills? Everything making sense? I know I'm hitting you guys with a lot, so all right, thank you. So, the skills. Different tools for different jobs. The DBT skills are broken down into 4 general skill sets, though some programs have a few bonus ones depending on the client's specific needs. And we'll get into that in a second. Emotion regulation, which is what we're doing today. We're doing that to reduce vulnerability to painful emotions through building skills to change emotions, reduce intensity of emotions, and to reduce vulnerability to experiencing intense and extremely painful emotions. So that's one family of skills. A related but different family of skills is distress tolerance, to survive and endure crisis situations. Strong and short-term impulses that emotion mind wants resolved immediately. For example, a crisis could be big or small. It could be somebody wanting to use drugs. It could be somebody wanting to commit suicide. It could also be somebody wanting to really yell and chew out their spouse when they're upset. An emotion mind's saying, do it, they deserve it. But that's just going to set them back from their goals. So this is more about enduring and getting through crisis situations without making them worse. You feel upset right now? Get away from there. Move, get out. It's going to blow. And come back when you're ready to engage. Mindfulness, building awareness of the present moments through feelings, thoughts, and behavior, of our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, patterns, cycles, strengths, and weaknesses. Building awareness into the moment and building awareness into ourselves. Without mindfulness, the skills don't work, which is why I start each session here with a mindfulness, just to show you guys how important it is to tune in. Interpersonal effectiveness, build and strengthen healthy relationships, navigate conflict, assert oneself, and end unhealthy relationships. These are for the people who are having a hard time asking for what they need, erecting boundaries. They feel they're too timid. They're getting disrespected all the time. They're not getting what they need from others. They're too giving. We need to turbocharge their ability to assert themselves, to end relationships, to ask for what they need without shutting down or saying, I'm not important, or people should know what I need, and they're just not doing it, and they're all a-holes. We want to really teach people how to get better relationships, because so much of life is about relationships. A bonus is walking the middle path, which is part of the interpersonal effectiveness module, and it really helps people who are having a tough time with others and also boosts the mindfulness skills. We can talk more if you want to reach out to me about that. Managing really difficult emotions. Some clients we're going to have, their emotions are out of whack. They're exploding. They're like little suns exploding inside of them. How do we deal with that? That's a combination of emotion regulation and distress tolerance. They had to fuse that together a bit. And when crisis is addiction. Who has a client who smokes too much weed? Who overeats? And it could be to the point of they're using an opioid or something like that. Or they're a sex addict. Any type of addiction, there's a module for that as well in the distress tolerance module. And that's all the pages are linked here if you're curious for more. Okay, take a deep breath. That was a lot. So now we're going to get into emotion regulation. This is our skill. This is our core skill family we're going to deal with today. It's very important and it's very psychoeducational in the beginning, and it's important for selling these skills to really, really try to help psychoeducate about what different emotions are about. A good bit of the time, clients need and appreciate guidance on why they feel what they're feeling. In the emotion regulation portion of the workbook, starting at this page, we provide psychoeducation to the client on what our feelings do. They motivate us to do things. Feelings get us to, work harder, to speak up, to go for something at work, to do an intervention as a therapist. Sometimes our countertransference is what gets us to move. They communicate and influence others. Our feelings tell other people what we're feeling and whether they should come close, they should back away, whether we're cool right now or we're not. A smile invites another smile, a conversation. A scowl says, whoa, I don't want to maybe be around this guy. And communicates important information to ourselves. Emotions are shortcuts for us to know what's going on in the world. We start to help clients understand their deficiencies and what makes it hard for them to regulate their emotions as well, which could be their biology, their lack of skill, reinforcement of emotional behaviors. They've only gotten what they've needed when they've lost control in their relationships. Moodiness, emotional overload. They're too overloaded to use a skill, or their anxiety is so bad they just can't not shut down. And emotional myths or false assumptions. False assumptions held about what emotions are there for. Emotions are weak. Emotions only get me into trouble. We want to correct these myths. It's a cognitive error, going back from the CBT lens. All right. The incredibly helpful pages 214 to 223. These pages provide excellent insights for the reason why we have emotions, challenges, physical changes and feelings that come up when we have a certain type of, a feeling, behaviors of our emotions, what we do when we feel that feeling, and the after effects, how we feel afterwards. This helps not only provide education as to what emotions are good for, but it helps clients start to understand, oh, I wasn't angry, but I was so hot, and I just wanted to, and I was just smiling, and I wanted to just give it to the person. Well, that's anger. It helps clients start to have multiple anchors to understand, hey, when I feel this way in my body, that's anger. Or when I start thinking about this in my mind, that's sadness. It's very important. This is so important. Give them these sheets, help them understand their feelings this is going to give them a master class on feelings. These pages, please, it's so important. I can't stress it enough. And guys, please take a look at these pages once we're done. So, there are two sides of emotion regulation skills. Two families of thoughts merged together within the skills. One, how to change our emotional responses. And two, protecting ourselves from intense emotions. One is to, when we're having a tough moment, how to change that moment, how to change how we feel, or change how we act, or change how we think, which will change how we feel so we can be more effective. Or protecting ourselves from intense emotions. We want to build up a stock of resilience, of positive experiences, of valued behavior, so that, when life hits us, when life gives us lemons, we've already made a bit of lemonade that, it's not hitting us so hard. We've built ourselves up a bit that we can withstand a bit of more negativity in our life without going to an emotional extreme. Okay. So these are the change-based strategies. The first one is called check the facts. We want to use check the facts to help a client see if their emotions fit the facts of a situation. This can be helpful to help a client adjust maladaptive beliefs or assumptions that are fueling their emotions. So basically, on these pages, you're going to go through a series of steps that helps a person think through what they're feeling. It might help to do this when they're a little less in emotion mind because it's hard to think. Or you might have to do some self-soothing techniques first, help them ground, help them breathe, and some distress tolerance skills, which we'll learn in the next class. But we're able to really walk through the steps of what happened, why are you feeling this way, what are you thinking, that could be magnifying how you feel. Can we change that? Are you expecting a catastrophe? Thinking of the catastrophic cognitive error. That's when somebody's mind jumps to the worst. I know I do that. I know I go there a lot. And so I imagine our clients do too. And they have a feeling based on a catastrophe that may not happen. We may be able to help them understand that their mind is creating the emotion and maybe not the situation, or their mind is expanding the emotion, throwing logs on the fire of that emotion and making that emotion grow. All right, the next skill, opposite action, pages 231 to 240. A lot of different handouts there that helps clients know exactly what is opposite. The opposite of sweet, I'm not sure if it's salty or bitter, right? But when you want to balance a bitter flavor, you might throw a bit of sugar on it to neutralize a little bit of the bitter taste. It's the same thing here with our behavior. Let's say acting on a feeling either doesn't feel good, or having that feeling, it doesn't feel good, it's too intense, or acting on that feeling is just going to screw up the person's day, yelling at the boss at work for not sending them an email. That could be a pink slip or a firing right there. Using opposite action will protect the person from acting on the ineffective emotion, and then it'll also help change the emotion, because when we have a behavior change, it can create an emotional change. When you're nice to somebody, it's very incongruent with being angry. And there are a lot of different examples of different opposite actions. For anxiety, you'd want to approach. For sad, you would want to laugh. For being angry at yourself or somebody, be kind to yourself. Be kind to somebody else. If you're shameful, share to somebody that will understand. If you're guilty, also sharing to somebody who will understand. There are a lot of different handouts in this series of pages, and I encourage you guys to look it up. Next is problem solving. When the facts themselves are the problem, solving the problem will reduce negative emotions through resolution of the problem. Let's say the client's feelings fit the facts and acting on that emotion urge is effective. Then chances are the client is in a bad situation, and if they can change the situation, then they will feel better. Relationships is a great example for this. Let's say somebody has a friend who is asking too much of them, or the word narcissism is being thrown around. Don't use that too much clinically, but of somebody who requires a lot, who's always talking about themselves, who's always the belle of the ball and needs to be, right? Let's say our client is feeling drained from being around that person, from hanging out around them too much. Maybe that's a problem that needs to be solved. Maybe they do need to stand up for themselves. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe they have to limit this friend. And by pulling away from that friend, they might feel better. They might feel less angry, less sad, less anxious in their social life. Remember, a key dialectic to remind your clients is feelings can be valid and acting on them can be ineffective. Sometimes clients feel something so strongly, it has to be right. But if it's just going to create more damage in your life and move you away from your goals, we have to rethink if acting on them with intensity or less intensity is maybe the right move, or if we need to use an opposite action. The protection techniques are called ABC Please. DBT is full of acronyms, and this is a point where people make fun of DBT, but they work. ABC Please is one of those acronyms. Let's break it down. So ABC Please. Let's start with A. It stands for accumulate positives, and I have the page numbers here. By doing ABC Please, I missed a step. By doing ABC Please, it reduces vulnerability to emotion mind getting super dysregulated. So, for example, in the A of ABC Please, we want to accumulate positives. A1 is to do small positives that mindfully to build up positives now, which are achievable delights or moments of self-care. There is a huge list on this, which I gave the page number, if clients are having trouble connecting with their joy again or their contentment. And you can go through, there are a million things, 300, but there are a lot of things that you can do or advise a client to do to try to boost their day. A2 is accumulate long-term positives. This is the big stuff. We want to stop avoiding what we need to improve. An example that I'm working with a client, avoiding on resuming college at a community college, getting unstuck, rebuilding relationships after an emotional breakdown, getting back into shape after gaining weight during COVID, reconnecting with religion. Some people, they feel that they need faith again. This is just examples. There's a values list to help clients connect with themselves. And remember, all these papers, right, can be used when a client doesn't know what their values are. They're lost. We can start to help the clients redefine themselves and what they care about. The B stands for build mastery. Build up resilience muscles. Take on a challenge and get stronger. Build up ability to do a little each day and to improve. Difficult but not impossible tasks. Do not set up the client for failure. Do not set up the treatment for failure. I have a client who has a disgust phobia. And in the beginning, it was just looking at the toilet. And that was it. She had to use a napkin and touch everything with a napkin, right? And eventually we went to, getting closer to the toilet. Maybe touching the handle with the napkin a few times and not washing hands because it was with the napkin. Then maybe touching the handle a few times and then washing your hands. Slowly but surely building up mastery, helping a client reclaim themselves over their phobias, their anxieties, their emotions. Cope ahead. Mentally prepare for tough times ahead to get ready. This is so important. I just did this with a client today who's going through a lot. This is to help a client brainstorm. Okay, when this, I'm going to get a challenge. My grandma's going to yell at me again. I was working with a teenager who's being raised by her grandma. Her grandma's also very emotional at times. So how does she deal with talking with her grandma when her grandma's not listening? When her grandma raises her voice, instead of getting dysregulated and saying, I'm going to kill myself and I can't deal with you, how does she stay calm, walk away, maybe reach out to me for some phone coaching, bring it up in the session, use one of her skills, use one of her interpersonal effectiveness skills, which we'll get to next session. It's about brainstorming the challenges ahead. And again, page number is here as well. Right over here is please. And it follows cope ahead. These are ways to treat our bodies right to reduce negative emotions. Making sure we treat physical illness, we eat right, we avoid mood altering substances. You know, a lot of people smoke weed and then they feel worse all of a sudden a day later. What's that about? Maybe that needs to be cut down. We want to get balanced sleep, and we also want to get exercise. All these things are incredibly important for regulating ourselves. And that's ABC, and that's please. Now, I know we're about 4 minutes out, and I know some of you may need to leave. We have the recording going, but let's take a little bit of time before we get to the practice to go. And if there are any case questions or any questions about the skills, about how or where we would use these different skills effectively in treatment. I want to hear from you guys. I know we got hit with a lot, but are there any cases that we feel using emotion regulation skills to be able to change, regulate intense emotions in the moment, or be able to help a client who needs to boost the positive things in their life to be able to regulate through ABC, please? Does anybody have any questions or any cases? Even one. Just something to chew on. You can raise your hand.
This is Angel again.
Hi, Angel.
Hi. I wanted to give other people a chance, but I could start with a case.
Please.
I have someone that I actually met with earlier today. She told me that she's been she's around 20 years old, and she doesn't get along with her dad, and is close to her mom. Her parents are divorced. She has some resentment towards her father. He's cheated on her mom, and she finds herself to be very agitated and aggravated on a daily basis, and little things tick her off, and she's having trouble connecting with people in general, and she doesn't know why. And we were trying to use some of these techniques today and kind of having her identify her emotions to start with, but I think this would be a good case to use with ABC, please.
Sure, 100%. It could be ABC, please is really good for many cases. And I know some of you guys have to go, so thank you for joining. Angel, we'll dig into this case for a little bit. I won't hold you too much of your time. So the thing is, right, like, she's resentful, she's challenged, she's having a lot of pains in her life, and she sounds like she's dysregulated a good bit at a time. She's having a hard time maintaining relationships or even building new ones. That's basically the core, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I would go back to what's called the biosocial theory and tried to piece apart a little bit of what her, childhood, or, her what's it call it, what she's been through and how it has impacted her today, how much of this negative, all these negative challenges that she's absorbed, how many times that she has been invalidated, dad's going off and cheating and stepping out of the marriage, right? How many times she's had to see her mother cry, how many times she's been told it's okay when it's really not okay. Really trying to, it's a little bit more process work in the beginning of this to help the client understand that what they've been through is not okay, and it's very valid that they're not feeling well across the board right now with being in a stew, being in a stew of all these challenges. And I would be curious to ask her, if she thinks that she also struggles with big emotions, like just emotions are just really hard for her in general too. They overwhelm her, and trying to synthesize that could be a little bit of, where you come from, your genes, but it could also be all this trauma, relational trauma between the parents that she's absorbed. Did you guys get to that point yet, or are you fairly new to each other?
Yeah, we've gotten into some of that history, but not too much, and it has been hard for her to, I guess, identify her emotions around it. She shrugs her shoulders and says, "Yeah, it is what it is," kind of dismissive towards it. And of course, I know there's a lot of other things that have to lead up to, in this case, to get to ABC Please. There's a lot of work beforehand, just in her being able to express herself and identify her emotions.
Right. So
Yeah.
if I could share, this is where we have to be a guide to our clients, because there is an arithmetic, there is a cut and dry science to what you've been through and how you respond emotionally. There's it's elementary. It's so important. Not elementary, but it's so key and so fundamental to really tell our clients, when you go through these types of experiences, you will have a set emotion. So, for example, right, I was telling you guys about the emotion regulation handouts that really spell out emotions for our clients. So here's the anger one. So, anger could be all these different flavors. It could be all the way from wrath, indignation, rage, to irritation, and helping a client find the right word there, but really trying to talk about the prompting events for feeling anger. So you or someone you care about being attacked or threatened by others, the relationship being blown up by dad's cheating, not having things turn out as expected. Who wants their parents to not be together and not function well together, and to see, everybody upset, and the divorce? They divorced, if you don't mind me asking.
They are. Yeah.
The divorce. What?
But the dad is around pretty much on a daily basis.
Is he mad? Is she mad at him a lot?
My client is, the mom and the dad have a pretty cordial relationship.
Okay, so it's really about her relationship with her dad, not
Yeah.
the other way. They could have come to some peace about it, I would really focus on the anger, that trying to define the anger. Like, look, this is what you've been through. Your parents' relationship didn't turn out as they expected. Your mom got hurt. So many things. The interpretations, right? This is the next portion. So we have prompting events for feeling something. Then we have an interpretation, how we mentally think about things, and it can make anger come up for, it can make anger happen, or it can magnify the anger of the prompting event. Blaming dad, believing that things maybe should have been different, judging the situation as illegitimate or wrong. Mom, why are you having a relationship with this asshole? Excuse my language, right? But you know, you can use these handouts to really help the client. Biological changes, what she feels in her body, expressions and angers, the behavior of anger, the after effects. And this also gets to disgust. Is she disgusted generally about him, about the world, about what's been happening? Is she anxious in any way? I mean, I didn't hear that in there, but fear. Is she, where's sadness? Sadness is at the end. Is she very sad and the anger is the primary emotion? What's going on here? So really trying to be a guide and help our clients understand that there is a cause and effect with our feelings, and you are full of those feelings because there have been a lot of causes in your life to create them. This might be a really good place to start with this client and help her find some insight into why she feels the way she feels, and to maybe how that might, you can do some dynamic work, how that might spill out to the rest of her life and her general feeling and relationships with others.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. Sorry, I steered away from ABC Please.
No, ABC. It wasn't just about ABC Please. It was about everything. So you did great. Do we have any other questions? I know we're at 12:06. Maybe we can go to 12:10. If anybody has any more questions, I can wrap up the show here, and we can finish with that. I'm going to take that as a no. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you guys the practice to go, because there was so much review of like general concepts, so that you guys got a taste for the module and the ways that the module can help people, the skills on a more brief basis. I encourage you guys to really go through the chapter if possible. I know you guys have a lot to do and it's not mandatory, but just to look through the module and read the starred pages especially, to learn and to see maybe which skills might work for certain clients. The more you throw yourselves into this work and the skills and knowing what you're doing and reading more and more, the more you're going to be able to think about these skills implicitly in session. So that's the practice to go. And remember, any questions, if you were a little shy during presentation, or if you have any questions about this work, you can please reach out to me this week. I'm just off on Shabbos, and you guys can certainly get some insights, and I'll take a call. All right. Thank you so much, you guys.